Okay, good morning. I just a little late came for some personal reason. Right. Uh, Let me just go through where we have stopped last time. I think we are just completed the leadership, and there may be a final. There may be a final leadership theory we need to do. Mm, that is, yeah, some. Okay, right. That this is the one, right? Functional approach, or sometimes some people also consider uh, this also as an a situational sort of theory of leadership, right? But some are considered under separate. Some textbooks, this approach considered under as a separate uh, leadership approach, but some of them are put under functional approach as a uh, what you call theory. But you know, the Don Nedai is a Canadian person, basically a professor, develop action-centered leadership approach, right? And here he has identified instead of instead of two, he has identified three functions. So sometimes we call three functions. So sometimes we call them as um, basically three type of needs. Oh, those three functions or three needs, we usually call them as situational factors. Situational factors. Or the first one, we call them as task functions, or may sometimes called task need. Now, under task need, uh, what they look at it, what the leaders are look at it, focus more on achieving targets, deadlines, leaders' roles, right? And basically, mm, role in plan the tasks, define groups tasks and deadlines, review progress, and etc. So this type of leadership approach, the lot of leadership approach, mind you, we have what we have learned up to now. All approach are concerned about little bit of task function, right? So here, functional approach, same. They more focus on achieving targets, deadlines, and all. So what leaders usually do, they set the appropriate targets and monitor the progress, right? That's the first task. The second task comes under the functional approach. We call them as a team function, or sometimes we call a group needs. Now, rather than look at a task, they also look at it the team building and motivation. So now here we say about cohesiveness, right? Cohesiveness can be එකමුතුව වැඩ කිරීමේ හැකියාව, right? So therefore leaders role is here, develop morale and develop cohesiveness. So they said, okay, they are explaining their subordinates the importance of working together and communicate with team members effectively. So we must have a better communications approach for this type of leadership approach, and that is a group needs, right? Okay, the third one we call not only the group, and they talk about individual needs also, right? Now that's the important thing. Now, the satisfy and develop the individuals in the teams. So there are three things under functional approach uh, developed by John and I talk about. A leader must consider about the task aspect, right? Second, leader must look at the group, to work as a group or work as a team. And the third approach, we call them as the individual function. Now, individual function, while you're supporting uh, the group activity, cohesiveness, and things like that, and also he look at the individual needs. Now, so here the leader's role is to train the individual members, resolve their conflicts, and maybe attend to their personal problem, advise whatever the praise or whatever, right? So leader here attending a personal issues. Now, three situation factors under functional approach, or sometimes we call action-centered leadership approach, which was developed by John and I, talk about three things: individual needs, group needs, and the task needs, right? So that is why it's more a good approach, because they look at it so many factors, but other most of the other factors they look at the team sorry they look at the only the tasks and the people, right? But here they take into account the group as well. So accordingly, to have a better leadership, better correct leadership ideal for the situation, we have identified the total situations. So they look at the three aspect, that is what you call for total sort of situation. Identify out of three functions which one must give the priorities and balance it accordingly. Now, say for an example, now suppose these days we are undergoing a certain adverse, or what you call discomfort situation, or maybe sometimes we call a disaster situation in this COVID-19. Now, here for organization maybe need to try to provide facilities to the customer. So under these disaster situation, the leader must more concentrated on the task function, and that doesn't mean other function is not taken into account. The more concentrating on the task function, because organization need to go, but while taking into account the individuals and the group needs as well, right? Something like, suppose the situation is good and they all are accordingly happening, nothing any disasters things are taking place, so in that case he may go for the individual functions, more concentrate on individual issues, right? So now what the therefore functional approach Adaya talk about, and he said, and there are three needs. One is a task need, right? Group needs, individual needs. Now they take into account the situation. They take into account the all these three situations, right? Now, say for a task, as I explained to you, objective setting, planning, allocating, responsibilities, setting standards of performance, all are task oriented. Group needs team building, communication, motivation, discipline, cohesiveness, things like that. Individual means you sometimes you need coaching, you need counseling, because to find out or solve any individual problem. So maybe we need to develop them, their competencies. So total situation they need to take into account before they executing their leadership style, right? But whatever the specific thing which are going to be the priority, task, group, or individual, depend on the situation. Depend on the situation, they may think which area you are going to focus, right? So that is what the simply the simply the functional leadership, or some people, as I explained to you, they also put this one comes under the situational leadership, but some books, some textbook, they consider that a separate leaderships theory, right? Okay. Now the another uh, learning, I mean the approach to leadership. Now, what they look at it, they take we learn about the threat theories. Now, you know what you mean by a threat theory mean. So it's depend on the person's some characteristics they are born, right? Now, the second sort of a theory what we have looked at it, the behavior. That means the people or the leaders can be trained and developed, not necessarily born, right? And last week we discussed the theories or some arguments, criticisms against the threat theory as well as supporting the threat theory. And then we went moving to the behavior of the person. So that means, so we discussed what do you mean by behavior. The leadership can be developed, can be trained, not necessarily to be born. So we'll give a lot of example for that. And then last week as well, we went into discuss about the leadership. The leadership style may be depend on the situation the leader is facing, right? And like these are the three type of main leadership theories we have learned. So what this social learning approach mean, what they have done is they have taken into these three, right? Um, these three and put together, right? These three and they put together. Now that is how you call them as the social learning approach. They look at the individual traits, they look at the individual behavior, and they look at the situational factors, right? And they say there's a mix. Now, one of the disadvantages of social learning approach to leadership mean this theory is they have taken uh, the these separate situations or separate uh, factors separately. That is the main disadvantage, right? Now, the social learning approach to leadership aspect, the people who suggested they taken these three factors separately. But what is the ideal one should be, it has to be taken in totality, right? You need to take these things in totality, right? Now, individual traits may be facilitated to learn by an individual. Based on the learning, he will adapt according to the given situation. Now, based on the situation, and it will count the experience. Now, this is the social learning approach. Basically, there is nothing much, but they have done, they have taken these three factors together, what we have learned. That the approach we call social learning approach. Most of the time, we use mixed approach, something like that, right? So that's a social learning approach. Then we look at it, some of the contemporary approaches, right? Then we look at it, some of the contemporary approaches of leadership, right? There are so many new leadership approaches. We may look at it. Uh, Now, leaderships may be evolves as you know, as the needs of the organization change. Now we are going to discuss about organizational change and things like that later on. I think today we are having the seven. We may have another three classes, right? So don't worry, we will cover these three during that period. Now you see, now today the leadership has evolved with changing technology, economic issues, labor issues, social, cultural changes. These pestle factors are keep on changing. So therefore, leadership style in today's context may also need to think different, right? Then and respond to the turbulence and uncertainty of the environment. New theories of leaderships are developed. We discuss very early stages in our lecture series. We discuss about the VUCA environment. So we are living in a very VUCA environment, volatile, complex, right? Uncertainty and ambiguity environment we are living. So therefore, our leaderships must be taken into account. So in sort of a today's context, so they suggest some theories called authentic leadership, level 5 leadership, servant leadership, and transformational leadership. So these are the new approaches for contemporary leaderships, right? Because mainly they have considered the environmental changes, right? Now, now Now, what is authentic leadership mean? They take into think account leaders are know and understand themselves. So they will call that ethical leaders, right? Today we know. So we are going to discuss about the business professionalism as well as business ethics as a latter part of, final session. So we discussed the importance of ethical leaders, right? In compliance in the banking. Um, One of the issues about the banking, I think we learn about the compliance, right? What do you mean by a compliance in banking? Compliance mean so you need to adhere to, right? You need to adhere to certain um, laws in the country, right? And also some procedures established and certain rules in the organization, and also some behavioral ethical standards, right? If you have not adhered to all these things, there may be a leading to some sort of financial as well as non-financial implication, right? Maybe financial loss, maybe due to the reputation risk, right? All these things leading to what? To your bank is subject to exposed to compliance risk. So the ethical leaders therefore also may look at it the compliance issues, right? So good leaders may be ethical leader. That means so he considers to be a behave in a some ethical manner, right? And also they may look at it staying true on one values and beliefs. Now, today we talk about trustworthy and transparent, especially the banks. One is the corporate governance factor. So, what we have identified, right? You may have a transparency. Whatever you do is a board of directors. One of the duty of a board of directors. So, board of directors, you carry out your activities in a transparent, trustworthy manner. So board of directors mean who give directions to organization. Now, what do you mean by a corporate governance? The manner in which the organization control and behave operated. So who give that directions to the management? That's the board of directors. So therefore, board of directors must give sort of a leadership for their senior management. Now, how can you do that? Through creating trustworthy and transparent. So why trustworthy? Because the banks are depend on the people's money. So the banking business is purely based on trust and confidence of the customer, right? So that is the authentic leadership side. So you are be an ethical leader, and also remember you need to have a some sort of a trust and commitment about this organization. As that is why we have a which we call what you call the value statement. Now today we have the organization, they consider, they develop apart from apart from the vision mission, and now they have introduced another statement called value statement. Now, in fact, this value statement earlier within the mission statement, but they have now taken, because they consider the value play an important role in carried out business, which communicate the business is carried out, adding value to your customers, right? So therefore, they have taken out from the values and the beliefs from the mission statement, and they incorporate under separate statement. Now, authentic leadership also need to look at it, all these things. And also, they must consider some of the people concerned with others. Others mean everybody. So why others? Others mean, so we need to respect others. So we are dealing with different type of publics. So we need to respect each other, right? And also, as we discussed, and the next one means we must demonstrate self-discipline. Now, so the code of conduct, right? Now, good leaderships demonstrate self-discipline. You must show him, oh, you are a good leader. So these are the those are the some of the characteristics of a authentic leadership style. So it not only concentrating on one area, they may deal with others. So you must have a better collaborations with the rapport with all other people, concern with others. You must have a show some self-discipline, right? And he has to very honest, and integrities they have need to be shown. That is why the in again when we talk about those things, when we apply to the banking, now the banking fit and proper, right? I think you are going to learn bank fit and proper play an important role. That when the appointments of directors to the bank, so as I explained to you maybe earlier, banks are going to introduce new Banking Act. 30 of 1980s, no, May 88 may be going to be totally replaced. It's not among. It is not. It is not a. I mean, what you call amendments, but maybe they may come with a total new Banking Act. Maybe 2021 Banking Act something. Right there, they are concentrating on more on corporate governance. Under corporate governance, they have a specific reference to the fit and proper of the director board. Now you see the organization, the bank, especially collapsed, maybe due to you have not have the better leadership positions in the board. So therefore, they may considering about more on a fit and proper, the qualification and suitability, and have a balanced board of directors. Have a different age groups, have a different experiences, different knowledge, and things like that. Then only the organization can smoothly run. So therefore, authentic leadership style play an important role today, especially under this. So therefore, they will run the organization with passion. Okay, so these are the some of the characteristics of authentic leadership, right? Okay. Second type of leadership, sometime we talk about the another approach we call, is Jim Collins who has developed this approach. We call level 5 leadership. Level 5 leaderships. So there are 5 levels he's identified, right? And here identify. Uh, so the top executives and must always, not like those days. He mentioned that it should be a not have some ego. So, our certain ego status now, where in the organization, especially for banks and all, now you noted that certain CEOs having some egos. So these are not good for them. There are some egos. So we must show the humbleness, desire to do the best, always dedicated. And if you have some sort of leadership qualities, people automatically uh, need to come close to you. Now, what he said, the leadership has to be grown from level one to level five, right? He must having all these levels, right? Highly capable individual. So leader must always have some sort of a capability to respect, and also contributing team member. That means he must be a good team member, and also competent manager also. Now, you know what you may be competent. You're full of knowledge, attitude, attributes, and uh, the technical knowledge, attitude, uh, knowledge, skills, required skills. And then he is definitely become a effective leader. So once you go to the fifth level, right, you have to have a specific characters like this, and that is what we call the Jim Collins talk about the five level of leadership style. Right, today's leadership style should be like this. Right, not a normal person can do the job. He must be competent. That is why we also look at it when you're going to invest the money in certain organization. But we look at it. Who are the board of directors? So then we evaluate these board of directors in certain parameters. So what Jim Collins is telling, so you must look at it their leadership style while going through all things, right? Okay, so that is Jim Collins' five-level leadership style, another contemporary thing. Then there's another leadership style, sometimes we call servant leadership. Right now, what this leadership style is talking about, basically, uh, uh, they will explain the work exists for the development of the worker, right? And basically, if you really look at it, it facilitates the goal accomplishment by giving its team members what they need in order to be productive. Now, servant leader always tell your subordinates to what you need to do. They guide you, right? And remember, and this leader is an instrument employees used to reach the goal rather than a commanding voice that move to change. Now, what do you mean by that? That means rather than telling what commanding you need to change, rather than that, they will direct you, right? Actually, this also a servant leadership style, as we learned earlier. This is little bit uh, some, uh, somewhat somewhat is somewhat relative to somewhat relation to the democratic type of leadership style, but rather than a democratic leadership style, but the servant leader one day try to do, he try to empower the people, right? Empower, give power, empowering them and get their views and ideas, and then recognizing them, and then how you get the work done. So that is we call the servant leadership. Right now we have learned basically the three type of contemporary leadership. One is authentic. Then we discuss about the five level leadership by Jim Collins and the servant leadership. Those are contemporary leadership style. Right now, if you really you want to analyze that, don't worry, right? Now, in sometime in an organization, you may learn some textbooks is talking about there are different leadership styles in the business world, right? Some leaders are coaching, some leaders are laissez-faire, delegating the work you will learn, uh, charismatic leadership, bureaucratic leadership, democratic leadership, autocratic leadership, servant leaderships, transactional leaderships, and uh, we discuss the new one is what you call authenticate. Authentic and like that, right? And now we are going to have an out of this, we are going to little bit of touch about the charismatic leadership, right? Now, what do you mean by charisma? Some sort of a quality of an individual personality, right? And people will usually treat you because of your certain charisma. Now, because charismatic leadership theory talk about followers make attributions of heroic or extraordinary leadership abilities of that person's having. Right? Now, if you really look at the charismatic leadership, have some extraordinary or heroic personal ability, and they are capable of having profound and extraordinary effects on followers. Now, good example for charismatic leadership, he's having some power. Now, example, religious leaders, they use the charismatic leadership style, right? Buddha, right? That is why you see they have some extraordinary ability. Now, even for Jesus, others, they but why they follow them? Because we believe they have some charismatic leadership. Right now, some people say the charismatic leadership power can be gained also, right? Gain. Okay, right. Now that is why we use it when we say Buddha, අපි කියන්නේ අටරියන් උසයි හොඳ ශරීර මහතයි. So recently we have seen අර අපේ බුලතගේ ස්කෙච් එක දාලා තියෙනවා කියලා ඇමරිකාවේ අඩි 10ක් 15ක් දීගයි. So there are some special characteristics, right? So I would say a recent charismatic leader, some people I believe කවුද අපේ මරුණ මේ ළඟදී අර ඉන්දියාවේ ඉන්න සාමිවරයා කවුද? Can't remember his name. So people are worship him, right? Okay, so that's a leadership style. Now, so they have some sort of a leadership character. So why inspire and motivate? Now, say for an example, another good classic example I can quote you: Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, right? That they're having a charisma, power to ignite others' mind. That's what they talk, right? Okay, so they also concentrating on like servant leadership style, empowering and trusting their subordinates, and ability to understand their empathies, right? Empathies because empathy means so මමත් ඒ වගේ හැසිරෙනවා, right? So those are some of the quality and the characteristic of a charismatic leadership, right? So then, okay, so we will just forget about these things. Right. Then we are moving to uh, another important leadership style or leaders. We call them as transformational leaders. transformational leaders. But today, a lot of people think about the transformational leadership style. Apart from the other three new contemporary leadership style, today people are considered about transformational leadership style. Now, the people who demonstrate the transformational leadership style, we call them as transformational leaders. Now, what they are trying to do, so while they are developing, basically, very simply, they change their subordinates as well. So that's the important, right? So they are going to transform them based on the given prevailing situation, right? Right. So the while we discuss today, the leadership has to be changed because environment is keep on changing. Now, transformational leaders, what they try to do, they are going to transform their subordinates or followers with the change of these changing factors. Right now, let's look at it how they are going to transform. One, transforming the leader's behavior that's been identified and articulating a vision. Now, behavior on the part of the leader aim to identify new opportunities for his divisions of company and developing and articulating and inspiring others with his own new visions of the future. Now, good leader must articulate the vision based on the of a given situation. There may be opportunities in the market, so your division, so in the leader of that division, head of that division, was articulating and inspiring others to go for that vision. A vision is, as we discussed, is give you a direction for your divisions or organization, right? Okay, so then what? While they have identifying the opportunities, providing an appropriate model, that means behavior on the part of the leader that set an example for employees to follow that is consistent with the value of leaders' epistles. That means so he himself be act as a role model, right? So people to follow. Third point is fostering the acceptance of group goals. Now, remember, and what they're trying to do, it is not his individual goals. Now, he is making that particular goal is the common goal, is a group goals, not the individual's goal. අපි කියන සමහරට මේ ඔබේ දරුවාගේ පාසල්, right? Then it have some belongingness. ඔය පාසල් වල ගහලා තියෙන්නේ මේ ඔබේ දරුවාගේ පාසල. Then you have some more appealing to that. Right? Likewise, what leaders try to do in transforming leadership style, identify the goals and they try to make it as a common goal. Right? It is not my own goal, it is your goal. That is what you call fostering the acceptance of group goals. Then, while you do that, they converted higher performance expectation. Right now, what they want, so they need some above level average performances, not a general level achievement of goal. Some quality, excellence, high performance part from the followers. But then they are not just going for achieving the goals, but little more higher expectation. For that, right now, what the leaders try to do, and they respect each other and also support, provide the individual support, right? Okay, so provide individual support. Now, if you really look at it, these points, some of the points you may can gather from the previous theories. Now, little while ago, we discussed about the John Adair's action-centered leadership style. There, one of the factors the leader need to consider is the individual aspects, right? Now, the new theories, new leadership style also look at it. Some of the important things identified by the previous theorist and incorporate into this leadership style. And the next one is what you call intellectual simulation. Now, remember, so while you're working, you need to re-examine some of the assumptions about their work and rethink how to can be performed. I mean, some people may be, it's an intellectual capital. I mean, intellectual, one of the things is a human resource, right? Any organization must have an intellectual capital. The, there are three intellectual capital you can identify. One is the the relationship with others. Second one, your employees, human skill. Third one, you can say it's a third human skill capital, intellectual. We call them as the people, leaderships, and the assets, right? So these and leader must create an intellectual stimulation, because every you as a leader you need to look at it, every employee in your organization, and then you see why they are not much performing, right? So we need to re-examine some of the behavior, or tell them or correct them how he can perform better, right? So these are the some of the how a leader can be transform others. Others mean the followers, right? So therefore, remember the transformational style of leadership, innovative, recognize. I mean, will be basically when we summarize what is transformational leadership, should be an innovative, support innovation, and recognize the follower needs, inspire followers, create a better future for your organization, promote change, as well as building up self-confidence, teamwork, achieve a higher order needs. So, good transformational leadership or leader, what they try to do, they try to look at all these aspects, right? Okay, clear. So that is what you call a transformational leadership. Now, presently, people are talking about the transformational leadership. While you take into account the external factors changing, we know it is the fact. You cannot consider the situation only. We need to look at it, all sort of things. Being a good leader, and he may consider team aspects, developing self-confidence, go for higher results, right? And while also change them, provide a better future for them, inspire to do that, recognize them, convert them to come up with some innovative idea. So those are some of the characteristics of transformational leadership style, right? Okay. Now, there are sometimes we call, there's another leadership style we call transactional leadership style. But so those are may not consider, because why? Because these considers transactional leaderships may look at it with the rewards and punishment. That's another area, but more product oriented rather than a people oriented, right? Again, uh, transactional styles also they may use, right? But not to that extent, right? Transactional, also a task oriented approach, right? Okay. Now, if you really look at this for your understanding, the difference between these two, transactional leaders, more passive rather than active or transformational, right? And they may within the confined to the culture, but so transformational leader always try to change the culture, come up with good things, right? So the transactional leaders are basically improve the motivation, yes, but what transformational leaders try to do, they try to inspire others. That's the important thing, right? Okay. Now, having understood that, okay, right? Sorry. Then this again, there is another one we call in 2 days. The more recent uh, leadership's approach, right? The more recent, remember that, more recent leadership style we call distributed leadership style, right? Some you maybe not heard about this. Can anybody heard about this distributed leadership style? Can anybody know what is distributed, right? Can anybody knows about? Have you heard about this distributed leadership style? Can anybody know what is distributed leadership style? Can anybody heard before that? Huh? Distributed leadership style. Now, distributed leadership style means the leadership is shared so the team members effectively interact and lead each other. So actually, the distributed leadership is a form of leadership more on a horizontal in nature compared to traditional leadership, now which tend to be more vertical or hierarchical. Now, the guy who has identified this distributed leadership called Carson, distributed leadership again sometimes we call them as uh, basically for uh, three areas. So that's mean the shared leadership. Another name for distributed leadership mean uh, facilitate by an overall team environment, right? And three consisting of three dimensions: shared purposes, social support, and voice, right? Now, distributed leaderships also today they have identified improve team performances and increase motivation, right? Now, so if you really look at it, what is distributed leadership is a more modern perspective of leadership is today. What they are trying to recognize that you must have a, I want to explain now what is distributed leadership, that there are multiple leaders in an organization. So usually up to now, we call them as the leadership. We call them as one guy. You must have all those sort of characteristics. So that's a traditional leadership view. Role of a one person in charge of others. Right now, I got my point now. Up to now, what we have discussed up to now, what is a leader? So entire organization may be controlled or maybe uh, followed by a one person. The one person must have these are the characteristics need to do. But you noted that in today's context, it is very difficult to have all these characteristics in a one person. Now, rather than that, some people, some leaders are good at certain areas. So, what today we talk about, so therefore, the distributed leadership or shared leadership in an organization. There are 3, 4 people who may have a different qualities that can be distributed among the leaders and run the business. So that is what you call a distributed or shared. It's a collective leadership. So it will sharing the power base between a number of individuals, right? Okay, right. That is what you call a distributed leadership, right? Today we are talking about the distributed leadership. That means so one person is not having all these leadership qualities, but different people may have some good leadership. So therefore, they join together, and in an organization, you must have a leaders which are having 3, 4 more specific characteristics. So combined together, they do a good job than one person in charge of others. So that sort of leaderships we call a distributed leadership, right? And these are the very novel thing, right? So there may be an argument against that, but now today in a very contemporary, very latest, people are talking about distributed leadership. But up to now, but they more concentrating on basically transformational leaderships, right? Transformational leadership style. Okay. Okay, having discussed that, we may now uh, moving to the today's lecture. So that is another part of leading the organization, and that is what we call the uh, motivation uh, aspects of leading, right? Motivation aspect of leading. So you know uh, the so the job of every manager at the workplace is to get the things done from others. So that is what we discussed now, the management, the job of every manager at the workplace, what they expecting to get the works done from it done through other people, right? But people work only, you know, if they feel like work. දැන් අපි කියන්නේ මට අද වැඩ කරන්න මූඩ් එකක් නැහැ. මට අද වැඩ කරන්න කැමති නැහැ. නැත්නම් මම වැඩ කරන්න මූඩ් එක කැමති නැහැ. Sometimes we are talking. So the people work therefore only if they feel like working, as said in the right now. There's a famous story on that. We say you can drive the horse to the water. Uh, You can drive the horse to the water. අස්සේ ගේන්න පුළුවන් වතුර ගාවට. But you cannot make it drinks. මට උට බොවන්න බෑ. Right? Okay? It's like that. Okay? So therefore, remember, people will do what they are motivated to do. So how to motivate employees? And it is a big challenge today. If you ask from lot of managers today, so what they are telling their main tasks today, how to motivate. That's the biggest challenge every manager face today. How to motivate their subordinates, how to motivate their employees. So in this section today, we try to cover some of the theoretical aspects. Done a lot of social studies about the motivational concept. Right now, remember, sometimes you may think, why we learn all these things, right? Why we know all these things? So, having identifying or having understanding the theory of all these things, right? You can understand the rationale behind that. That is why we need to understand certain theories. Some of the things you can get it from these theories. That is why all these theories we are learning. When we learn, when we did our university, these things I have done when I did my banking, right? These things I have done when I did my masters. Still, we are doing and we are teaching. But only things what is changing. There are new things, new concepts, new things are adding to the existing theory. So that shows still those are valid. Now, I think you can remember I told you uh, the famous guy Henry Fayol who come up with 18th century or early late 18th century about the principles of management. He came up with 14 principles of management. Some of the principles still we are using. Some of these principles still heavily used by companies like Toyota, one of the largest companies. Still they are using. Some of the management concepts still we are used, which were discovered maybe decades ago, right? So we need to learn about the theoretical aspects. Okay, right. So that is why we need to study about the motivation. Actually, the motivation is even though we consider it as management, one of the directing instrument, but it is basically a sociological concept if you really look at it, right? Okay. Now, the motivation, the letter came from the Latin word. You see, a lot of English words came from either Greek or Latin, right? So the Latin word we call movere, M-O-V-E-E-R, is called movere. So, which means in English is called to move. To move, we have identified. You need some sort of a relationship. You need to fulfill the needs of the people. You must drive them and you must give some incentive. So that is very simply mean about the motivation, the word Latin word, right? Having identified some of the what you call some of the rationale behind for motivation. So let me now going to start learning motivation, right? Now, what are the characteristics of a motivation? The motivation is an internal feeling. It is coming from your inside. That is why we call them at it is a psychological phenomenon. It is from the mental issue. Now, which generate within an individual. So these needs are feeling in the minds of a person. So that feelings may affect the behavior of the person. So therefore, it is a cognitive thing. It's a psychological thing, motivation. Now, what we are trying to do by learning, studying the motivation, try to identify what makes you to change, what makes you to behave in such a way. So, if you can make use of people to behave in such a way which will be positive to achievement of the organizational objective, right? Here we talk a person in totality, not a part of a person. So we need to motivate as a person. So the employee of organization, it is an inseparable unit. You cannot run organization without people. That is why we discussed at the very beginning. Organization is a full of people, group of people who work together to achieve a common purpose. Can you remember all these things? So all are interrelated. So there are different people. So because it's an individual, so internal feeling must behave in a different way, right? So therefore, we need to manage them to behave in a similar way. So those are some of the characteristics of a motivation, right? It is an internal feeling. It is an internal thing, right? So therefore, motivation is a psychological force that arouses enthusiasm and persistence of a person to carry out a certain course of action, right? It has to come from the our cognitive aspects, right? Okay. Now let's look at it how motivation related with human needs, right? How motivation related with human needs. Now you think you have unfulfilled needs. Now was this internal theory or cognitive theory is developed by Sigmund Freud, so famous psychologist. So he said the importance of the needs. Okay, we have an unfulfilled needs. Yeah, we have not. So what is generating? Say you feel thirsty. That is unfulfilled needs. Now what you are trying to do? You create a tension, feeling dizzy, feeling dizzy. So what you are trying to do? Having some sort of a tension. You are trying to. There is a drive. So your unfulfilled needs are your desire. So what you're creating there is a tension. So the tension drive you to fulfill your needs. Psychological motivational force is created because of what? Because of tension. So it will drive you to search for something to drink, right? Okay, something to drink. So basically, what the motivation is, that is the origin of motivation. So you must identify the unfulfilled needs, tension created. The tension will drive to psychological motivational force. When you're hungry, so you are creating a tension within your body and you try to go for fulfill your need, unfilled, unfulfilled need. Okay, so that is why it is a psychological aspect. Actually, unfulfilled needs or desires are the origin of motivation. Now, what triggers, what are the forces for you to motivate? So we are going to discuss those things a little later, but there are some two things for understanding purpose. I'm just saying forces. So those are we call motivational triggers. Forces are the intrinsic or extrinsic, maybe internal benefits or external benefits to a person that arouse enthusiasm and persistence within the body. Right now, say for an example, your salary is an extrinsic, right? Your feeling, we call them as an intrinsic. So, for example, extrinsic rewards are initiated from the outside of a person: salary, wages, employee benefits, interpersonal rewards, promotions. Those are extrinsic rewards, external benefits. What are the intrinsic benefits or rewards? One that is self-administered, completion of the job. Oh, so now imagine you having some sort of a requirement, full blood and all, right? Full of blood. So you drink a lot of water and you are traveling. Now immediately you get a pain, you want to release this bladder. Bladder, you need to release this. So you are trying to fulfill your need. So once you have done it, once you complete it, now you can see the relief you are getting. I just give you something, right? So achievement, once you achieve your targets, personal growth, all are intrinsic rewards. These are the things which drive or triggers you to arouse enthusiasm and persistence, right? Okay. So then, having understood some of the very basics about motivation, right? So what we as managers try to do, try to identify these triggers and try to put your organization's people to go to satisfy that, right? Okay. So what do you mean by motivation? So as I usually use lot of definition about some things, here also I'll give you some definitions developed by people who are basically done a lot of research about the motivation. The Fred Luthans, he said motivation is a process. Now, I don't want to tell you again and over again. Process is series of activities. So therefore, motivation also process that start with a physiological or psychological deficiency or need that activates a behavior or a drive that aim at a goal or incentive. So, so you have identified there may be a deficiency, right? Okay, so you are trying to drive or change your behavior to go for that. So motivation is a process of stimulating people to action to accomplish desired goal. William Scott. Motivation refers to the way in which urges, drives, desires, aspirations, striving, need, direct, control, explain view of the human being. That is McFarlane. Motivation is the willingness to exert high level of effort towards organization goal, conditions by the effort's ability to satisfy some individual needs. That is called Stefan. Dr. Campbell identified three measures of resulting behavior: direction, strength, persistence. Now, all things depends for how effectiveness of your triggers. Right? Let's look at it. Some of the elements of motivation. Right? Okay. Let's look at it. Three things: direction, intensity, persistence. Right? Let's explain a little more on this. What is directions? Where the efforts are going. So that's the one aspect we need to look at it. How to direct them? Where are the effects going? Next one you say intensity. How hard? You see 100-meter run. How hard? How intensity to go and take the final destination? Persistent. How to keep going? So never give up, for example. Persistence. Then only motivation is taking place. Now, if you really look at it here, like that here, what is that? Arouse, enthusiasm, and persistence. Your focus. So, in order to do that, only we must have some motivational triggers. Right? So, these three elements is important. Now, what managers try to do, try to identify these elements. Where are the efforts going? How hard? How long? Right? Okay. Now, if you put it again in a nutshell, the process of motivation, all the people that talk on that, there may be an unsatisfied need. There may be an unsatisfied, unfulfilled need. Then, as I explained to you, as we explained to you earlier as well, it creates tension. Ayasya category, right? It creates Ayasya category, right? Create tension. Unsatisfied need. So there is a need. It create tension, right? So through the tension, what you are trying to do, there may be a stimuli, a drive. It's drive you. Tension will stimulate you or drive you feeling of satisfaction. How am I going to fulfill this requirement? How am I going to satisfy myself after fulfilling my needs? Will I try to make an effort in order to get that satisfaction? I'm effort, my try, and finally end up with the performances. So this is a process of motivation, right? It is a mental satisfaction. Ultimately, end up with the performances. Ultimately, end up with performances. Now, if you put these things into the organizational aspects, what we try to do now, this process we try to incorporate to business point of view or organizations goals achievement, right? First, we look at it. What are our objectives? What are our objectives? Organizational objectives, right? Just look at it. What are our objectives? Organization objectives. Maybe profits, maybe production, productivity, or whatever. So, what are your personal objectives? Employees' objective, maybe salary, maybe promotion, whatever. Now, there are two unsatisfied needs. Organization is expecting profits, employees expecting profit, salary, and promotion. Now, what we try to do, the rewards we are trying to combine with performances. Rewards try to because for what is performance? Yeah. What is reward? What you expecting? So we are doing to try to combine these two. And then what we are trying to do now, we are trying to motivate employees to achieve both. What? One way to achieve the organizational objectives. Second one, to achieve the individual's objectives. So the motivations we try to do that. Okay. So in the organization aspects, we are trying to do that. Now before that, let me explain what do you mean by a job satisfaction. What do you mean by a job satisfaction? Now it is another important technique used to motivate the employees to work harder. Now in the latter part of today, we are going to discuss some of the theories whether the job satisfactions or motivations are both the same, right? In order to motivate some people, first, what you need to do, you need to eliminate all these dissatisfied factors. So we will discuss some of the theories on that, right? And also remember, so therefore, satisfaction, important technique, which used to motivate the employees to work harder. In simple words, if you say, job satisfaction can be defined as the extent of positive feelings or attitudes that individuals toward the job, right? So if it really impacted your businesses, what? employee turnover, reduce the productivity, absenteeism, junior inactivity. All those are the implications of the repercussions of the job satisfaction. If a job is not satisfying, it leads to all these things, right? So therefore, job satisfaction play an important role in motivation, right? An area we need to think, right? Now, if you really look at it, these 2 points. So there are two things you have to delete the third part, right? Now, satisfaction, happiness resulting the deprivations of the individual needs. Right now, once you are fulfilled, I'll say you are very thirsty, right? So you drank some soft drink or maybe something which you like it. So what you're getting? Oh, satisfaction, right? Now, it is understood today. So in order to have the motivation, create satisfaction is a preconditions for the motivation. First, you need to satisfy, then only you go for motivation. And remember, the satisfaction is not necessarily condition for performances. Just because of you satisfy, so you cannot see is a condition for performances, right? Okay, let's look at the motivation as compared with the satisfaction. It is a psychological thing. It is an inducement. So therefore, motivation occurs when worker is satisfied. You want to go for that, right? Little understood about the motivation. And just look at some of the sources of job satisfaction. Organizational factors, work environmental factors, work itself, personal factors, right? Salaries, promotions, policies, then supervisions, work group, working conditions, job scope, job itself, variety, autonomy, role ambiguity, interesting, your age and your seniority, tenure, personality, all factors may contributing to the job satisfaction. So before we go for motivation in that case, we need to look at it, some of the factors which contributing for a job satisfaction. That is why we say job satisfaction is a precondition of motivation. There are some theories which support that. There are some theories which support that. So you need to understand. Okay, so before for motivation, you must go for satisfaction, and you need to understand the 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 satisfactions factors which lead to motivation. Let's look at its the relationship between performance and motivation. So motivation means desire to do the job. So it's in the functions of ability, capability, work environment, so tools, materials, and information to do a job, and the motivation. So that is why we discussed earlier, the just because of you're satisfied, that doesn't mean you perform. In order to perform, you need to motivate the employees along with these two factors. Those are directly relationship. right? Not professionally, directly, proportionately have a relation, proportionately related to these factors. So the performance is depend on motivation. You see, satisfaction is not there, right? Okay, in order to motivate, you first need to satisfy. I hope you understood on that concept, right? And just now we are going to look at it. Some of the things what we have learned, maybe we have learned the evaluations of concept of motivation. Motivation we have learned earlier when we discussed the management theories. I think now you may remember about the classical management. What we said, right? We discuss about worker is a machine, is a slave, right? Worker machine. So if you use punishment and it relating to the worker's performances, that is the classical management theories talk about. Then a little improvement, little bit of improvement. Worker we consider as an economic element, is a rational element. Under scientific management, if you economically reward, so we discuss the performance increase, and that was developed by who? Taylor. Frederick Vincent Taylor said economic rewards. That is why I call fees rates, right? Things like that. Then we discuss about human relationship management or human relations management. Elton Mayo talk about lot of things about. You must be heard about this Hotho experiment, right? And what he said, work as a social element. Work is a human being because therefore he is like to deal with people. They consider the social element of the management. There they talk about more extrinsic, but some intrinsic, but not pay much. Need for performances. Then in later again, after identify the work as a human being, then people going to discuss about worker is a resource, is an asset. Then convert and human resource management, early human relation, and human resource management, they have identified more concentrating on more intrinsic. So we are going to discuss what is intrinsic little later on, but more intrinsic rather than physical thing. The less extrinsic also an important, but they more concentrating on more intrinsics, recognition, and again improve the performances. In today's the modern or contemporary human resource management, we're talking as worker is not only an asset, not only a resource, is partner of your business. And they consider now they add some humanistic things also into the motivations of triggers like extrinsic and intrinsic and humanistic things. Today can improve your organization performances because of these three triggers. These triggers, mind you, create the persistence of employees' mind. So that's how the evolution of motivations up to now. right? That is the motivation create up to now. Clear? Right. Now we are going to discuss the theories of motivations, like theories of leadership. Now we are going to discuss the theories of motivation, right? Okay. Any questions up to now, right? Any issues? Tayaparan, you are okay? Understood? Right? Right. Okay. Now, with this small introductions about the motivation, why motivation is important, what is motivation, why, how to create a motivation, what is the evolutions of motivation, we have discussed. Now we are going to discuss the theories of motivation. So theories of motivation is usually can be defined or can be identified as two aspects, categorized into two levels. One, content theories, and other one is the process theories. So what is the difference between these two theories? If you really look at it in a very simple jargon, what do you mean by a content theory? And through the content theories, what those theories who develop these theories try to identify, to answer to the question is what, why, what you need to provide employees or people to motivate. So the content theories talk about or answer to the questions of what, what you need to do to drive an organization to do a better job. How, what factors or what things, what areas you need to look at it to motivate. So the second type of theories is simply we call process theories. Under process theories, what they are trying to do, the theories try to do, to try to understand why type of questions, why people motivate, why employee motivate, right? So it's a more on a cognitive thing. Content is a more on a physical thing, right? So somebody can ask you, what makes me to love you? What makes me to love you? Because you are handy, because of you are nice looking, tall, very handsome, good cricketer, CEO of the organization. So that's the what makes you to love me. And sometimes you ask, I don't have any sort of a characteristics. So why you love me? That is a difficult thing to answer. ඇයි ඔයා මට ආදරේ? මොකද ඔයා මට ආදරේ කළේ මොකක් නිසාද? Those are content theories. ඇයි ඔයා මට ආදරේ? So those are process theories. It's very difficult, right? There are two types of theories about the motivation, content and a process. Okay, now what are the theories we are going to learn under motivation? What are the theories comes under what type of theories? Those are we call content theories. We are going to learn 5 type of theories under content theories. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's a very famous theory. Everybody may know. Second, Friedrich Herzberg two-factor theory. Third, Alderfer's ERG theory. David McNernon's theory forces three forces theory. Then Douglas MacGregor's theory X and Y. Those are content theories. And also we are going to look at it expectancy theory developed by Victor Viru. Then Adams come up with equity theory. Then the goal setting theory, as well as Skinner has found out the reinforcement theory. So these are the theories. Very briefly, we try to explain. All these theories tells why people motivate, what you need to do to change the people to do a better job, better results. Under leadership, we have learned how we're going to influence the leaders to change their behavior. But motivation is talk about what you need to do to change, improve the results. Right? Okay. Right. We first go, before we go for break, we must first look at it, some of the content theory. And the very famous one is what you call Maslow theory. Very simple. Maslow identified hierarchy of needs. Actually, it is a theory in psychology proposed by Abraham Maslow in 1943. Way back, right? The theory of human motivation is a psychological review, and Abraham has identified 5 types of needs on employee. Now we discussed, can you remember? Unsatisfied need. There is a tension to achieve fulfillment of these needs. That is how motivation taking place now. So here, human have 5 types of needs. These are we call physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actual needs. Now, these needs, it will be satisfied in a hierarchical order. These are hierarchical, right? Now, further elaborations on this, we'll say on a pyramid format. What are the factors comes under physiological needs? Air, water, food, shelter, sleep, sex. Right. Then next level is safety, security, love and belongingness, self-esteem and self-actualization. Now the issue is what Maslow said. First, human being go for physiological needs. Without satisfying the physiological needs, they are not moving to the safety needs. Without satisfying safety needs, people are not going for the next level of need. Before satisfying the love or belongingness, people are not moving to self-esteem needs. So that is why Maslow said the needs are placed in a hierarchical order. It's go from bottom to top. They are not jumping straight away to self-esteem and things like that. That is what Maslow's trust, psychological need, then go for security needs, and then go for social need, esteem needs, and then finally it's going for a self actualization need. Okay, right. Now let's look at it. Now let's look at it. The most important thing, how you can make use of these needs in the organization's point of view, right? So these are human basic crew, right? Humans basic requirement. Everybody wants. Now, what Maslow said, if you want to motivate the employees, first you need to satisfy these individual needs, which are falling in hierarchical form. Before you satisfy, before you motivate the employees, if you want to motivate the employees, you must fulfill these individual requirements. Okay, as an organization, how am I going to fulfill these requirements, right? Okay, so how organizations do that to satisfy your physiological needs? So they may consider about the basic salary, basic salary, right? Now that is why sometimes your salary is not enough. People go and shout with Packard and all. They say, "Jeevat peemat sarlena padiyak diyav." Why? To fulfill their physiological needs, an organization need to give a some good salary. People are fighting for that in the business world, right? Okay, that's a physiological needs. Sometimes we people are talk about transportation, housing facilities, right? Now with safety in differences, right? Transportation, uniform, medical needs, reimbursement, housing loan facilities, all are physiological needs employees is giving to satisfy, organization is giving to satisfy physiological needs. Then you move into the second one, the safety needs, right? So how you satisfy the safety needs at the employments? Job security, then permanent your job, and today's concern security safety in terms of certain viruses. So your employees are expecting your safety needs about working conditions. That is why you are supposed to wear, when you're working in engineering work, you need to wear a helmet, provide helmet, sufficient security, work health and safety. All need people generic needs. Then you go to the belongingness. People like a family, community, work together, especially in Sri Lanka. Now, how organizations are providing these things? That is why organizations providing work groups, annual trips, right? Get together, Christmas party. Now these days, those things are little. So belongingness needs. Work with the team. Then you go for next level esteem. So everybody needs some recognition, some respect, esteem needs. Now, how uh, employee give these facilities, employer give these facilities to fulfill the esteem needs of the individual employee. Improve the responsibilities. You can use job enrichment. Use some job expansion strategies for that. Recognize you, oh, best employee of the year. A promotion. So that is what you're expecting to fulfill the esteem needs of the employee. And the final one, the self-actualization. Full total. Now, how banks or how organization do to fulfill the employee's self-actualization? Create person, create an innovative guide providing training and development, advancement, growth. So all will support for you to fulfill your self-actualization. Right? So that what's the key takeout from this theory? Right? And so Maslow said there are some human unfilled needs. So these unfilled needs, every time, what what employees try to do, have a tension to achieve this level. Once you fulfill the first level needs, they go for the second level, and then there's a tension for that. Like that, every need has a tension. So this tension make them to go to satisfy this need. Once you satisfy, only you can motivate them. One is disclose, satisfy them, then you motivate and finally achieve your organization's goal. So an organizations try to do that, fulfill the individual needs by providing various things. That is the thing we can take out from this theory, right? And you know, so what is the criticism for this Maslow theory? One of the main criticisms of this theory, everybody is not having these 5 hierarchy needs. They may stop with first and second one. Nobody is having all these 5 needs. That's the main thing. So you cannot see all these 5 needs of each and every employee. That's the first criticism of this theory. Now the next one, some people, the order of achievement, now what is Maslow is telling, first you need to fulfill the physiological and then go to next level, like that. It is an order of fulfillment. But it is not the case. Some people may bypass certain stages. Now in Sri Lanka, we have a good song. In Sri Lanka, we have a good song sung by Nanda Malini, criticizing Maslow theory. Can you tell me that song? Nanda Malini කියන සින්දුවක් තියෙනවා. මේ මාස්ලෝගේ hierarchy of need එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම criticize කරන සින්දුවකින්. නන්දා මාලිනී කියන්නේ කාට හරි කියන්න පුළුවන්ද මේ සින්දුව මොකක්ද කියලා? ඔයාලා අහලා තියෙනවනේ එනවා නම් ඉන්න රත්තරන් මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? මතකයි නේද? අපි physiological needs, safety needs ඔක්කොම අයින් කරලා කෙලින්ම යනවා belongingness need. මතකද සින්දුව? යනවා නම් එන්න රත්තරන් නීපතුයි කාලා අපි යමු අපිට ඕනේ ආදරේ විතරයි කල්පතක් කන්දක් උඩ ගහගෙන ඉමු. එතකොට අර කිසි දෙයක් ඕනේ නැහැ. Physiological needs ඕනේ නැහැ. කෙලින් බැලලා උඩට. So likewise there are some people they don't have these uh, requirements or these needs in a particular hierarchical order. Can be changed. Some people start with belongingness, right? Some people are from esteem needs. It's not follow. They bypass the first three needs. Now, but what Maslow said, you need to go one by one. And what happened? There's a criticism for this Maslow theory, and he has taken the American middle class household structure, right? So therefore, it may not represent the entire world, because the Maslow is an American guy. When he developed this theory, he has studied only the middle class of the American people. So they consider these are their essential, but not maybe the essential. Some people are not worried about self-actualization at all. They need only the physiological needs, right? So one of the other factor is very difficult in today's context to apply this. One another important criticism is in today's, in order to satisfy the employees, these needs not only enough. There are some other factors also contributing to the employee satisfaction. Needs may, but not the needs to satisfy them. There are other factors. Okay. What is the key takeoff from this theory? Still we are practicing. There are some things we can make use of to fulfill the individual need hierarchy, right? I think now we have learned Maslow's theory in details. Right, now let's look at it, the second theory, and then we'll go for break. We call them as two-factor theory. We call them as two-factor theory. Right? It's not so well, right? By Frederick Herzberg, the person who has identified this content theory of motivation. And he identified, or I mean, he came up with results of two-factor after interview with 200 engineers and accounts, and they were posed two questions, and they asked the question number one: what factors can improve your job satisfaction? And these factors given by those 200 engineers and accounts, they have identified as motivating factors. What factors reduce job satisfaction? And Frederick has identified those factors as hygiene factors. Right? So that is why we call two-factor theory. That was developed by Frederick Herzberg in 1959. What factors can improve your job satisfaction? Those are we call factors. What factors reduce job satisfaction? We call hygiene factors. Right? Let me explain all these factors. Sometimes we call them as the dual factor theory, And this theory was developed by as I explained, to the psychologists, and after taking into account the workplace situation. So therefore, it is more on a practical approach, right? And he has identified these factors, and let's look at it. What are the factors he considered be a hygiene factor, or sometimes we call dissatisfied factors? Working condition, co-worker relations, policies and rules, supervisor quality, base wage and salary. And what are the motivating factors? We call, say, job satisfaction factors, achievement, recognition, responsibility, work itself, advancement, personal goals. Now, what Herzberg's two-factor theories talk about? Try to understand. Now, what Herzberg is telling, first, you need to remove all these dissatisfied factors or hygiene factors. Then you try to give motivating factors, right? So that is Herzberg two-factor theory story. Telling, first, you need to remove all these dissatisfied factors. Then you give these satisfied factors. Okay, again, let me clear again. So if you want to motivate your employee, what you need to do, first, you try to remove your all these dissatisfied factors, what you call hygiene factors, right? Once you remove, then you give the motivational factors, or then you will improve your organization's performance, right? දැන් අපි ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් ගාවට ගියාම සමහර වෙලාවට අපි බෙහෙත් ඉල්ලුවම මොකද දොස්තර කියන්නේ? මේකට පිළියම් කරන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි දැන් තුවාලයක් ගන්න ගියාම දැන් අපි I'm just telling you a very simple example. දැන් ඔන්න අපි යනවා වන වෙච්ච තුවාලයක්. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ මේ තුවාලෙට? දැන් මේ තුවාලය හොඳ කරගන්න බෙහෙත් දාන්න බෑ. මේ බෙහෙත් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? තුවාලය හොඳ කරලා දාන motivational factors. මේ බෙහෙත් කොච්චර දැම්මත් වැඩක් නැහැ. මේ තුවාලය අපිරිසුදු නම් මොකද බෙහෙත් අවුෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් මොකද කරන්න ඕනි? අපිට අර තුවාලයේ වටේ තියෙන කුණු විස බීජ ටික අයින් කරන්න ඕන. දැන් ගමුකෝ ලේඩි කෙනෙක්. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපි හිතමු කියුටෙක්ස් දාන්න. නේද? දැන් ඔන්න කියුටෙක්ස් එකක් ගහලා තියෙනවා. දැන් වෙන පාටක් ගන්න හදනවා. මොකද වෙන්නේ? සමහරට කොච්චර ගෑවත් වැඩක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. සමහරට වෙනක් වෙන්නේ. ඉතින්ලා මොකද කරන්නේ? අර කලින් ගාපේව රිමූව් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒවට තියෙනවා මේ දෙක රිමූව් කරලා තමයි අලුත් එක ගන්න. නැත්තම් දෙක වැඩ කරන්නේ. Same thing. First, you need to eliminate your dissatisfied factors, or what you call the hygiene factors. What are those? Working conditions, salary. That means you bring all these, eliminate me, ನೀವು angry me. So those are bring to a good levels. And then only you provide the motivational factors, then people tend to work hard. ಇದರ ಕೊಚ್ಚರ motivational factors do not, but if you are not remove your hygiene factors, right? So that is what us talk about. So it's a good things to learn, right? How you recognize employees, give more responsibility job, give awards, not worth or not facilitate to improve your performances. Why? Because other factors are not good. So therefore, first remove the hygiene factors, then contributing the motivating factors, then only people will talk. So this is the take out from this theory. What is the key take out from this theory? Understood. Each theory we need to get something out from that. I hope you understood that part. Right? Now, what are the criticism for this Herzberg two-factor theory? Every theory, somebody come and criticize. That is the nature of. So, good criticism was a good thing, right? For next guy to address all these things, right? Now, what are the main criticism? As you saw, he said this was done based on 200 engineers and accountants. Are these people are really reflecting the are these two people are really reflecting the for the study and take a decision? That means sampling is not good, which not represented the population, right? So only engineers and accountants are incorporated to the study is one of the factors. Why? So what about the lower level of employees in an organization? Right? How can they say salary is not a factor? So salary is a good factor for them, right? So another criticism again, removing of dissatisfaction, not only contributing to the motivation. So, and the cultural and the social aspects got now take into account Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, the salary, job security, and all are play an important role. We cannot not to be considered those factors. Those factors need to be considered, right? So that is Herzberg two-factor theory. Herzberg two-factor theory, right? I hope you understood that theory. Then we move into the third factor, the third theory of content, what you call the ERG theory. And this theory is developed by Clayton Alderfer in 1960. They're not so long, right? Those are very recent stories. Now, what ERG theory? He has come out with some of the issues we discuss under Maslow theory. Now, what is Maslow theory criticism? What he said is you need to fulfill, you need to satisfy the physiological need, and then you go to the safety like that. But what? That's an issue of people. No? I told you that Some people are not behave like that. They may straight away go into the different levels. So LDFA has addressed this issue. What LDFA is saying? LDFA is addressed this issue, and what LDFA has done, he said, so you don't want to have a order of these needs. So that assumption was taken out by the LDFA. And also he said, now according to Maslow, he said, every time the one factor you need to take into account. First you need to take physiological, then you satisfy, then only you can go for that. But LDFA thought remove that part. There may be a one or two needs can be taken place simultaneously in the consumer with the employees mindset, right? So therefore, he has divided these Maslow's theory of needs into three types of needs, categorized three types. Now, say for an example, he said ERG. E means existent needs, the needs of the physical well-being. Then relatedness needs, the need for a satisfactory relationship with others. Growth needs, the need that focus on the development of human potential. So he basically what he has done it, he has bring these Maslow's theories, Maslow needs into three segments divided, and safety, security, and the physiological needs he has put together one as existent needs, and the social needs he has taken as a one is called relatedness. The esteem needs and the self-actualization he put to one as growth. Now, what happened here? Rather than five needs, Aldefer confined these five needs into three: safety and physiological and existence, self-actualization, esteem and growth, and the love as related. Right? Right. So what are the things you can get it out from this? Right? What are the things you can get it out from this? So he has identified the what you need to provide them to to satisfy the existent needs. The job security, the safety mechanism, housing, they consider that existent needs. Everybody need those things. Physical well-being. First, try to satisfy these. So then the related needs, the need for satisfactory relationship with others. So we need the related needs also to fulfill. The social aspects. With the growth needs, they talk about the human potential, personal growth, and this. So in an organization, what you try to do? So you try to develop some programs of employees to satisfy those needs, right? So that is the key takeout from this theory. So you're not necessary to fulfill 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. You can identify these type of needs, come up with some organizational development activities or promotional activities to motivate employees right? Okay, so that is the relationship. Okay, now we'll go for break, right? And then we'll come back. Before we moving to the Mackler need theory, so let me try to summarize or compare these three needs, these three theories in a one sort of chart. We have tried to compare the comparison between these three needs. So you try, right, to compare these three needs. One, Maslow theory, then two-factor theory, and ERG theory. Try to compare these three theories. So at the exam, if you ask you to uh, compare between these three theories, so you in a position to do. Now after the break, we will be back again 11:25, right? And we will proceed the next few theories, right? I think we may in a position to cover these three other part after the break, right? Still we are discussing content theories. Okay, come 11:25, and then we will discuss the uh, the comparison between these three, as well as we move into the content balance theories and process theories, right? Right. Now we start the balance part today. Now the how to the compare of these three um, theories, right? So if you look at the relationship between Herzberg's, Maslow, and Alderfer's motivational theories, when you look at these, the two factors here in the all are content theories. That mean the needs theories. That mean the what factors contributing to the improvement or improve the motivation. So what are the Herzberg's identify? Two factors. Those are we call motivators factors and hygiene factors. So, right? So the Maslow, they talk about five factors, psychological things. And Alderfer's, what he identify? Three strategies, right? Those strategies, they divided into three, simple as that, right? Okay, now let us discuss about the another theory. That is what you call David Macklin. So David Macklin also identified uh, in his motivational theory achievement theory. Now he has identified three main needs. Three all are now you noted that one important thing. All these content theories are talk about needs. What needs contributing to the motivation of employees. Right. The theory identify three main needs based motives. Now, these three needs are basically identified as achievement, need for power, and affiliation. Now, employees must have these different type of three needs, or employees or people. Usually, they are inherited with these three type of need: achievement, power, and affiliation. Now, let me explain what do you mean by these achievement. Now, this reflects the desire to accomplish a goal or task more effectively than in the past. Basically, the high need of achievement are supposed to have a desire, willingness to assume personal responsibility, tendency to set moderate, difficult goals, need for specific and immediate feedback, absorption, and all. Now, there are some set of employees working in an organization. What they need is they are willing to work, right? Okay, now let's look at the second type of need of those employees. Research has shown that people with a strong need of power are like to be a superior performers and have good attendance record and occupying supervisory position. Now, some people need power, so they need power and they execute this power to motivate employees, right? And then some people need for affiliation. People with strong need for affiliation are like to prefer and perform better in jobs that involve a lot of social interactions and offer opportunities to make friends. Now you noted that in an organization. So what is the key takeout from this theory? Now what this theory is talking about, there are David Macklin has identified every people must have a three type of needs. They try to fulfill these needs. Now, what are the three type of need? One is achievement needs. Other one power needs. Third one is affiliations. Now, in an organization is full of employees. No, now we have noted there are some people they need for affiliation. Then you need to select the people for these positions or the job where you need to satisfy your affiliation. That means so create relationship, creating network. Now public relationship officer or maybe marketing officers, right? Now you may putting to these jobs having identified those people's need requirements. If you want to motivate him to do a better job, so you need to identify the job. You have to design your job, or you have to identify the correct person to that job. Now, specifically, the person have a need for affiliations. You must put in public relations. The guy who dealing with public who have a relationship, networking, right? You select those people for that. So some people are going for achievement, and you must give them a challenge, right? Desire, because he want to go for a personal goal. He's going for a difficult task, right? Now, have you identified the different need requirement of the people? What organization is trying to do? I design the job, select the people who are having certain need requirement, power, achievement, affiliation, and put them into the correct jobs, which are definitely motivated to achieve the organization's goal. So that is the key takeout from this theory, right? And that is the key takeout from this theory, and especially, and this is important. Uh, Now, all maybe all the employees must have these three types of needs, but it may be vary from person to person, right? Now, one fellow is good for achievement, one fellow for power, one fellow for affiliation. Now, especially if you are working in a very much mm, competitive environment, and this is identifying who suited for which job is important, right? So therefore, important to understand to collect the correct position for that job. So that is the three need theory of um, David McMillan. So final thing is, so you need to understand. So what is the outcome? What is the key takeout from this theory? What is the key take out from this theory? Basically, to find out the correct people to that job, perform that job, based on Big McLean's theory, right? Okay, now the next theory, what we are going to discuss with you, famous theory X and theory Y. And that was developed by Douglas McGregor. And what is theory X and Y is talking about? And what is the key take out from this theory? Now, what Douglas McGregor said, And he said, in an organization, you find two type of employees. In an organization, you find out two type of employees. So some people are right. They don't want to work hard. So they don't have ambitions, they don't want to take any responsibility. Right? They don't want to work. They're little not perform. So if you want to perform, you must tell them, you must be closely supervise them, you need to tell them what to do and how to do and everything. So these type of groups in an organization falling to the X type of theory, falling to X type of theory, right? Okay. So then another set of employees in the organization, they like to work hard. They like to take the responsibility. And they are very capable making decisions. We don't want to go behind to say, you do these things like this. Their own behave. So directions and self-control is not necessary. Sorry, I mean the direct supervision is not, because they are self-direction and self-control, right? For a committed goal. So there are not. So now you have a two types of employees in the organization. You may use different motivational techniques, or maybe using different techniques to motivate them. So therefore, this sometimes this theory X and Y also some people who discuss under leadership as well, right? Because under X type of theories, employees, what you need? You need to motivate. But if you take the carrot and stick method, you need to use stick methods. So if you want to motivate, you need to give stick methods. You punishment, some sort of autocratic leadership style, punishment. But the theory why guys are need participative type or democratic side. We need carrot type of approach. That means to achieve the organizational goals and objectives, right? So now, so what is the takeout from this theory? So different type of motivation or leadership practices you need to promote to them to motivate. To stick and carrot approach. Theory X people need a stick approach to motivate, and theory Y people you need to have a carrot approach, right? So that is what you call theory X and theory Y of Douglas McGregor. That is the uh, content theories, right? Now these are the things we need to understand in the content theory. Now next, what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss the process theories. Now, earlier we discussed what you mean by a process theory. Now, what is process theory means? Usually we call process theory as the group of motivational theory that falls under the umbrella category of roles theory process, right? So theory's motivation is basically, as I explained to you, those are theories answering the question of why people behave like that, right? Not what makes them to motivate, why people are motivate like this. Clear? Okay, so for that, we have identified some theories to explain about the process theory. These theories are we call, one famous theory we call as expectancy theory. Now, this theory says that an individual's behavior is formed, not an objective reality. Remember, this theory says that an individual's behavior is formed, not an objective reality, but on her subject perceptions of the subjective perceptions of the, not the objective, the subjective perceptions of the reality. Right? Now, the core of this theory, the core of this expectancy theory, as decided by the diagram, uh, related to how a person perceive relationship between three things. What are the three things? Effort, performance, reward. Right? And in fact, this was developed by a Canadian. Some people are saying American, but American Canadian uh, professor uh, somewhere in 1932. He's born in 1932, and he come up with this expectancy theory in motivation. Now, what he said, if employees are given rewards for their good performances, they could be motivated to perform better. Simple, very simple thing. Employees are given rewards for their good performances, they could be motivated to perform better. Now, that is why we have a lot of scheme, right? In bank, best branch, best employee, like that. Okay, example. Now, what is effort? Work hard, right? If you work hard, if you have an effort, you achieve your targets. So that means performances. Effort, work hard, achievement, performance. What is the result? Reward as the best salesperson. That is the reward. So that's the three concept. That the relationship between these 3 points is expectancy theory is talk about. Now, say another one, the expectancy theory of motivation, as I explained to you, suggests that the human beings are driven to accomplish the goal when they deem to benefits of achieving the goal desirable, because that goal can be reached. Okay, so therefore goal must be have a valence, that means a value, a sense of instrumentality or belief that there is a way to complete the goal, right? And finally, the individual must have a sense of expectancy. That means, so you have expectancy to achieve the goal. Right. Further explanation here. Now, what is Victor Rome expectancy theory talking about? Effort, performance, reward. Now, effort means the expectancy. Can I hit my targets if I work hard? That is your expectation. That is your effort. That is your expectancy, and that is your effort. බලාපොරොත්තු ඒකයි. කොහොම හරි මගේ target එක ගන්න. So how it instrumentality? Instrumentality means the performance. Will hitting my targets lead to rewards? That is your thinking. So then the valence, that is the reward, we talk, do I find the rewards desirable? Those are the three things we may look at. So this is the basic theory, and if you further diagrammatic this one, effort, expectancy, right? Effort, expectancy, subject to probability that the effort lead to a level of performances. I have expectance, so therefore I make an effort. If I make an effort, I know I can achieve the level of performance expected. That's the first level outcome. That's the first performances, right? That's what we discussed now. You have an effort, that means expectancy. So that means you are achieving your first level outcome. Right. First, you need to achieve the performance now in order to get the reward. Then, so the valence, the value attached to the outcome. right? That is instrumentality. Third part, the probability that a given level of performance will result in a preferred outcome. So the preferred outcome has come. The second level of outcome is promotion, your salary increase, or whatever. All right. So the performance, whether I get the value attached to the outcome is reasonable. So that is valence, right? We are now expectancy theory. Now the second, if you further analyze this Victor-Verum one, so he has identified, which I explained to you earlier, two mental conditions. So mental means cognitive, which direct the motivated behavior, right? That's the effect. So these two are, what are the two things? Valence and expectancy. So expectancy means probability that effort will lead the desired performances. Expectancy, probability that effort will lead to desired performance. What is the probability? What is the chances of being achieving the performances? Next part, probability that performance will produce the desired outcome. The performance is enough for me to achieve. So end up with valence. So valence is value of outcomes, right? Okay, clear. So the reward must be good in order for me to perform, and so I need to have an effort to achieve the performance. ඒ කියන්නේ මට මම මේ දාන මේ ප්‍රමාණවත් උත්සාහයට සරිලන valence එකක් එහෙම නැත්නම් outcomes එකක් මට හම්බ වෙයි. Right? These are the two things, valence and expectancy. All are thinking thing, right? Okay. So, what is an outcome? Now, if you say in this case, so what is the key takeout from this theory? That's what we need, right, in our management level. So this, you note that this expectancy theory basically the comprehensive view of the motivational process. This expectancy theory is, gives you a comprehensive process of view of the process of motivation. Now again, I'm just telling you. Now, අපි මේ විදිහට සිංහලෙන් කිව්වොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට සරල තේරෙන විදිහට මේක. යම් ආයාසයක්, ඒ කියන්නේ effort එකක්. දැරීම තුලින් යම් කිසි effort එකක් නැත්නම් ආයාසයක් දැරීම තුලින් පළමු පෙළ ප්‍රතිවිපාකය ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ මේක. පළමු පෙළ ප්‍රතිවිපාකය ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද්ද පළමු පෙළ ප්‍රතිවිපාකය ළඟා හැකි යන විශ්වාසයත් අපේක්ෂාව. ඒ කියන්නේ යම් කිසි effect එකක් දැම්මොත් මට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න පුළුවන්, මට විශ්වාසය, මගේ අපේක්ෂාව මට මේ ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් මගේ මේ ඉලක්කය. එතකොට පළමු පෙළ ප්‍රතිවිපාක ළඟා කර ගැනීම තුලින් first level out වෙන ගමන් first level එකේ ප්‍රතිවිපාක මගින් දෙවන පෙළ ප්‍රතිවිපාක secondary level of income නැත්නම් second level of outcome ළඟා කරගatiය හැකි යන විශ්වාසයක් ළඟා කරන විශ්වාසයත් ඒකට අපි කියනවා instrumentality. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි instrumentality කියලා කියන්නේ සිංහලෙන් අපි සාකච්ඡා කරොත් උපකාරකතාව. ඒ කියන්නේ උපකාරී වෙනවා එවන දෙවනි පෙළ මට තමාට ළඟා කරගන්න. තමාට මේ දෙවනි පෙළෙන් ලැබෙන ප්‍රතිවිපාකය නැත්නම් outcome එක වටිනාකමක් සහිත බව යන හැඟීම අපි ඒකට කියනවා වේලන්ස් කියලා. රයිට්? මම හිතනවා මත සේවක අභිප්‍රේරණය සිදුවෙන බව මේ න්‍යායෙහි ප්‍රධාන සරල අදහසයි. රයිට්? මම නැවත වරක් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වොත් යම් කිසි ආයාසයක් දැරීමක් තුලින් මට ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් මේ පළමු පෙළ ප්‍රතිපාද. දැන් පළමු වෙල අවුට්කම් එක තමයි මොකද්ද? performance. මේක ළඟා කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක මගේ විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. right? එතකොට පළමු පෙළ ළඟා කරගත්තයින් පස්සේ දෙවන පෙළ ළඟා කර ගැනීමේ විශ්වාසයෙන් මම කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒකට කියනවා අපි ඉන්ස්ට්‍රුමන්ටැලිටි කියලා. එහෙම කටයුතු කරනකොට මගේ මේ දෙවෙනි පෙළෙන් මට ලැබෙන ප්‍රතිඵලය නැත්නම් ප්‍රතිවිපාකය තමාට යම්කිසි වටිනාකමක් තියෙනවා කියන හැඟීම මත මම ඒ දේ කරනවා. ඒ හින්දා තමයි මොටිවේට් වෙන්නේ. right? හොඳට එක මතක තියාගන්න. effort. දැන් ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් දැන් යම් කිසි effort එකක් දාපුවම මම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා, ඒ කියන්නේ මම expect කරනවා මට performance කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. මේ මම ළඟා කරගත් ප්‍රතිඵල නැත්නම් මේ performance මම හිතනවා මට වටිනාකමක් සහිත ප්‍රතිවිපාකයක් හම්බ වෙනවා කියලා. ඒ වටිනාකමක් සහිත එකට කියන අපි වේලන්ස් කියලා. right? එහෙමනම් මතක මෙන්න මේක තමයි ප්‍රධාන සරල සිද්ධාන්තය. right? Now it satisfied told you it gives a what are the take out from this theory? It gives a comprehensive view of the entire motivational process. Second, and also it indicates that the individuals would act only when they perceive that their behavior will lead to desired outcome. Right? Now, the second thing, the individual that it indicates that the individuals would only act when they perceive that there may be a desired outcome. So, බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන දේ ලැබෙයි කියන විදියට තමයි. Right? And third take out from this theory, it emphasizing the importance of individual perceptions of the reality in the motivational process. සත්‍යතාවය අවබෝධ කරගන්න මේ ක්‍රමවේදය. And the last one, it implies that job satisfaction will follow an effective job performances. Right? So it motivate only you get the performances. Right? These are the outcomes of this theory. Right? Expectancy theory. The important things: effort and expectancy, instrumentality, and valence. Right? These are the few things you need to look at. That is what you call the expectancy mean the effort, instrumentality mean the performances, and through the instrumentality you are going to get the reward, whether it is reasonable for me to reasonable reward for me of this achievement of performances. Right? And this theory was further developed by Porter and Lawler's theory. This is called the two gentlemen, Lyman Porter and Edward Lawyer, was further developed by this expectancy theory, which was developed by Victor Williams. Now, what is basically developed? He said there are three expectation, three fundamental um, expectation only meet only. So he going to do this job or do this activity. So first one, actually these are basically three things. One is, so you believe the first expectancy level is, so you can do that. You can do it. The expectation, I can do this. So the second expectation, so once I complete that particular activity or the job, I'm expecting I'm get a reward. Third one, the the reward I'm going to get, so it is a reasonable for me to, it is reasonable for my effort. So that is my three expectation. That is how what is Porter is categorically mentioned all these things. Right? Okay, clear. So in also found different relations of intrinsics as well as extrinsic rewards with the performance and therefore ultimate satisfaction. Now, he may expecting both the intrinsic rewards as well as extrinsic rewards. Now, what do you mean by extrinsic reward? We will going to discuss later on. Maybe a promotion, the salary increments and all. And but in intrinsic rewards, uh, the mental well-being, mental satisfaction, so self-recognition, all are important. So you are expecting two levels of uh, rewards. I hope you understood. I will try to explain it again. Now, it is a development of Victor Vallone theory. Now, he identified there are three expectations or three type of expectation, and employee can be influenced three ways. One, he expect the he expect I can do this job. I can do this activity. Second, when I do this activity, I will be rewarded. Second one. The third expectation is the rewards I am expecting may be reasonable to my effort, right? So that is valence basically, right? So in order to support the reasonability of my uh, uh, effort, so it can be comes from both intrinsic as well as extrinsic. So for me myself, I feel satisfied for me because of my achievement. The reward is provide me an intrinsic. I feel it is good, and also I'm expecting the particular reward also facilitate me to improve my increase my salary or get a promotions or not. It's linked to both intrinsics and extrinsics. That is what the Porter identified. That will give you something out from this theory when you're designing a motivational program. you must provide intrinsics as well as extrinsic reward. So those things we are going to discuss uh, little later. What do you mean by intrinsics and what do you mean by extrinsics? Right? Those are process, right? What what why you perform? Why you perform? Because you're expecting some results, right? So why you love me? Answer to that my earlier question. He said, okay, I feel it. You will look after me till I die. Something. You will treat me like that. That is your expectation. Now you got the point now, right? Okay. So this is the theory, right? Because you're expecting intrinsics as well as intrinsics, right? Okay. Second theory is what you call equity theory. Second theory, we call them as a equity theory. John Adams, the guy who has developed this theory, is called John Adams. Now, equity theory of motivation again is a process theory that explores an individual motivation to work based on the fairness or sense of equality he detects in the relationship. That means basically, if you really look at it in more in a dramatic format, the input you put, loyalty, hard work, commitment, trust, those are the things you put into the thing. That is your fair balance. I think the output of salary, benefits, recognitions, and achievements is their output. No, the input, your loyalty, your hard work, your commitment, right? And I think your fair balance, equity. That means your equity, right? And output, what you're expecting, salary, benefit, recognition, and achievements and all. Now let's look at it. These two equity theory is a distributive justice. So distributive justice means perceive fairness of the amount and the allocations of rewards among individuals. So the perceived fairness of the process of to determine a distribution of reward. So you are compare through the equity theory the efforts I made, right? With compare with other person with a similar place. Say you are an example, a simple example. You put it in a very simple language. Your output and your input. It should be equal to some another person input and output, right? But result you are getting the same salary. A guy who also not do the same input and not put the same, not get the same output. So then you are frustrated. So that is why today we are talking about the performance based remuneration system. Theory focuses on people's feeling of how fairly they have been treated in comparison with the treatment received by others. Now, most these are a lot of problems in an organization. Mama Mansi and both are say banking assistant. Now you put a huge effect. Return what you're expecting, right? Now we discussed earlier. So you have more loyal, what you're expecting? Your output to be increased. That is not the case. Now you need to compare these two. I mean, that say two banking assistant working in the same branch. You put more effort, you get the same salary. The next guy in the same position, but he's not put much effort, but he get the same salary. So then what happened? If you put in the job situations, input against they get from it, outcomes, the input outcome ratio not valued in the same manner. So then what happened? You are dissatisfied. You try to reduce to fall in line with the other guy, or maybe you find another, right? So, so therefore you need to adjust yourself. So that is the equity theory is talking about, right? It is an output input equal to the output other person's input, right? If not, you try to adjust your input and output, right? It's a very, very interesting one. So it's like a balance. You need to have a balance in the job motivation. What I put into my job, time, effort, ability, loyalty, tolerance, flexibility, integrity, commitment, those are inputs. What I get from the job, pay, bonus, perks, benefits, security, recognition. So it has to be balanced. That balance to be compared with other people. You feel it. The amount you put, you get the output. Then you are compare with this with another person. What happened? So if we get more doing nothing, so what happened? You get frustrated. So therefore, that is why sometimes what is the key take out from this theory? That's important thing, right? So you may always you must have a systems in your organization to equalize this input output ratio of your as well as another people. One aspect. Other one, we may have a closed space system. Closed space system. That is why sometimes you noted that. So you don't know your other people salary. So you can you can basically control job motivations of Adams equity theory by having a closed space systems. You are not disclosing how much you're getting. You're in the both grade, same place, same position, but I don't know how much he's getting, and not he's getting. But for government bank, of course, you know what he's getting and what. But in the private sector, the same position, but you don't know, right? So the Adams equity theory don't come into the scene. You don't know, but it's very difficult task because then you're going to compare the amount you're getting compared with other banks, same jobs. Okay, now say for an example, you are working for a example, NDB bank. So what then you say your input and your output, how much you're getting. So first you compare with your own bank. Then you're going to compare with this your input and input with a similar bank, some other private bank. There may be other factors will contribute, but you may look at what is the Sampath is going to giving me to same position. How much they are giving, right? Okay, so when you're designing your payments or reward systems or whatever, so that is why we need to look at it other factors, other banks, salary, yeah, payments, incentives, intrinsic rewards, and extrinsic rewards, right? When you are designing a better remuneration system or maybe some incentive scheme, you need to consider, you need to look at it. What is a comparative industry? organizations offering, because employee try to compare these things. But what is Adams equity theories talk about? Output and inputs need to be equal, and employees is going to compare this with your own employees as well as other employees, other organizations employees. You are getting the same thing, right? So that is Adams equity theory. So the next theory we call them as goal setting theory. We discussed this also in a little bit on in leadership theory, but the goal setting theory is basically it is developed by Edwin Locke, the guy who developed this. Uh, Now, in this goal theory or path goal theory or goal setting theory, sometimes called, and it's basically depend on the motivation is depend on to what extent that employee has identified his targets and all goals and so his own targets to what extent he is well aware of that, and to what extent that be accepted. Now, if we clearly mention the targets which are agreed by the both parties with the management and over, and also it should be now this when you're setting a targets, it should be challenging as well as achievable. That's the important thing. The moment you set the uh, challenging but unrealistic, unachievable, there won't be a motivation, right? So you must set targets and clearly explain the targets to the employee, and those targets should be jointly discussed, but jointly discussed targets may be challenging but achievable. So for that you can motivate the employees. So that's the goal theories talk about very simply. So therefore when you're setting goals and objectives and targets, it is always advisable to get the views from the persons or the employees concerned. So then only he may agree to go for this challenging task, right? That is simply talk about the goal theory. Now, goal theories talk about if you want to motivate individual, first you must be given, clarify his targets, preferably discuss with your employee and come certain conclusion. But those targets or those goals must be challenging, but achievable. And it is your duty to provide support for that also. Not only giving targets, you must support. So for that, you need feedback also. Remember, you require resources as well as you need to give a good feedback for employees. Then only he motivate to achieve the targets. So that is why the goal difficulty is a challenging. Goal specificity, that means clarity and precision of the goal. So the two things you need to concentrating on this goal setting theory: difficulty and the specificity, right? And you need to clearly explain this is the target, and target also should be a challenging one, right? And when you're setting your goal, you need to discuss with your employees. Then only he, and also you must support with some resources as well as give feedback to employees. Then only he may motivated to achieve these goals and targets. So that is a takeout from that. That is a takeout from this theory. Goal setting theory is a very important one, which both agree to go for, right? Okay. So what is the takeout from this theory as I explained to you, right? Okay. Next one. Another theory is developed by Skinner, B.F. Skinner, is called the reinforcement theory. Reinforcement theory. THURY, reinforcement theory. THURY is missing, so you need to put reinforcement theory. Now, what is reinforcement theory is talking about? The reinforcement theory is talking about, actually this was research was done by Skinner, use of rats, right? And now you see, when you look at from how the rats are moving, right? Now rats are using the uh, same track. They never change. So once he identified from this route, if I take to go out from this place, he used the same route. Because why? Because he has a positive experience. And I use this track, I can go to this particular destination. So he used the same thing. They're not going to change. Likewise, the reinforcement theory developed by B.F. Skinner is talking about, it says this theory suggests that a given behavior is said to be a functions of consequences of earlier behavior. Now, what is this theory is talking about? It suggests that given behavior is said to be a functions of the consequence of earlier behavior. So that is what we call now, right? Reinforcement theory of motivation. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සිංහලෙන් ඉතාමත්ම සරලව කිව්වොත් දැන් අතීත චාර්යාවට ලැබුණා වූ ප්‍රතිවිපාක අනාගත චාර්යාව තීරණය වීම සඳහා බලපාන. අපි past experience අපි කලින් ඔන්න පෞගිය එක පොසිටිව් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් නෙගටිව් වෙන්න. ඒ මත තමයි අනාගතයේ තීරණය. Right now උදාහරණයක් ගමුකෝ, it can be a positives or negatives. දැන් ඔන්න අපි කෙනෙක් බැංකුවෙන් අපිට දෙනවා පොරොන්දුවක්, ඔයා මේ ටාගට් එක ගත්තොත් ඔයාට මම දෙනවා, නැත්නම් මම ඔයාව ප්‍රොමෝට් කරනවා, නැත්නම් මොනවා හරි කරනවා. right? දැන් ඔන්න ඔයා ඒ දේ කරගෙන යනවා. ඔයා ටාගට් එක ගන්නවා. එතකොට ඒ පොරොන්දු පරිදි ඔයාට උසස් වීම හරි ඒ දේ ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් ඊට පස්සේ ආයි බොස් කියනවා, ආයි ඔයාව මොටිවේට් කරන්න කියනවා, ඔයා මේ දේ කළොත් ඔයාට මේක දෙනවා කියලා වෙන එකක් කියනවා. කාර් එකක් දෙනවා. Now what is that? It is a negative reinforcement. Why? Because you have an experience that is not given, bad experience. Right? It is a negative experience in that case. Now, positive reinforcement, right? The strategy of strengthening and increase the behavior of the presentation of a desired consequence. But the negative mean strengthen and increase in the behavior of the termination of withdrawal of undesirable consequences. Right? ඒකෙන් අපි අදහස් කරන්නේ ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් යහපත් ප්‍රතිවිපාක, සිංහලෙන් කිව්වොත් යහපත් ප්‍රතිපාකයන් හඳුන්වා දීම තුලින් චාර්යාව ශක්තිමත් කිරීම සිදු කිරීමේ තිබෙන වාර ගාන වැඩි. හැබැයි ඒ වගේම තමයි අයහපත් ප්‍රතිව්‍යාකරණ වළක්වාලීම ඉඩ සැලසීම තුළින් යහපත් ප්‍රතිචාරය සිදු වෙන්න පුළුවන් අවස්ථා ගැන වැඩි. කියන්නේ ඒක දුන්නේ නැත්නම් වැඩේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So that is what you call reinforcement punishment. Okay? Right. So මේවා තමයි අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන්. Those are some of the process theories. Right? So we learn process theory and content theory. So, the manager needs to motivate subordinates. That is our problem. No? That is why we discuss all these things. Right? This is the problem we face. At the beginning of this lecture, I told you is a main problem with the management or your manager, how to motivate your subordinate. It's a challenge. So now we are going to discuss. So why we need to, it's a challenging task, but why we need to motivate them? What is the purpose of motivating your employee? Simple. Less absenteeism, high labor turnover, easy to achieve targets, more internal conflicts. If you are not motivated, mutual support with employees, more wastage, so a lot of issues. All are financially and non-financial things. Most of them can be converted into the quantifiable things. Right? All are cost to the organization. So therefore it is important for to motivate. Right? So how can then employees, managers motivate employees? Now, one of the task of the manager is to motivate your employees. Right? So let's now look at it. What are the preconditions of motivation? In discuss certain theory, but we need to remove all unsatisfied factors. What factor you need to look at it, right? Preconditions of motivation, skills and abilities of workers. That, of course, you need to give. That is why we need to give a training and development. Right? How can you motivate a people you don't know anything or you don't have a competency to do the job? So one of the preconditions of motivation is therefore you need to develop skills and abilities of workers. Competency need to be developed. So without developing the competency, you cannot motivate. And not only their competency, we need to look at the other physical factors which contribute to the motivation. How capable you are, if your machines, your equipments and your tools are old, you are using old machinery, so you cannot motivate, right? Okay, third point, attitude of workers towards work. So you have to have a positive things. So then the conditions of work environment, objectives of the organization. What is the level of satisfaction of your workers presently? Because why? Remember, satisfaction need promotion, motivation. Right? So in order to fulfill the in order to reach the motivation, so you need to first satisfy them. So these are some of the preconditions of motivation. So anything you do for motivate is not successful if you are not fulfill these preconditions. Right? Okay. So then you look at it, how you know whether your employees are motivated or not? How do you know your employees are motivated or not? So you can see energy, enthusiasm, determination, cooperation, willingness to accept responsibility, acceptance of changes, high results achieved. So these are some sort of signs of motivation. What are the demotivation factors, signs then? So lethargy and frustration, unwillingness to accept, those are the opposite of the other one. Lack of cooperation, passiveness, work to rule or working carelessly, late attendance, unnotified absenteeism, increased idleness, labor turnover, resistant to change, blaming the management, boss. Those are some sort of a symptoms of demotivation, right? Now, as a manager, you need to identify the signals of demotivation. Now, in lending, you identify non-performing signals of non-performing loans, right? Likewise, you need to identify, right, some demotivation factors. Now, say in for cars, now it's electronic cars today, you can show there are some symptoms. Now, there are some bulbs are blinking. Now, with the car, the modern car, so the car is not satisfied. You're not motivated to drive more. There's some indicators. There's some indicators from certain lights blinking. Then what you're doing, that you do, you go to the mechanics or may go to the some repair place and ask what these lights indicate. So that means something wrong with this engine or some parts of that engine or something. It tells you. So those are demotivation factors to run smoothly your car. That there are some indicators. Likewise, working also there are some indicators. Those are symptoms of demotivations. There are positive as well as negative, right? So then we are going to discuss intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and this small part I will keep for next week, and we are trying to finish. It's only a small area, so we 12:30. So now we are going to stop from this. I will continue the balance part, that is what is intrinsic motivation and what is extrinsic motivation. I think we already know all these things, and we are going to discuss a little bit of rewards and incentives and how can you motivate employees, right? And what are the uh, how to design a good motivational scheme for your employees, and apart from the performance, how apart from the motivation, how you can improve the performance. So some of the things we are going to discuss next week. So we have just completed 7 weeks, so we have another 3 weeks to do. So the balance 3 weeks, the next week we may consider about human resource management, from recruitment, small, not spend more time, recruitment, right, training and performance evaluation, something very small thing, right, some very basic about human resource management, right. And the same in the last two sessions we are going to discuss a little bit of other important areas, that is ethics and work behavior and things like that. Okay, so we'll stop today, and I hope you understood um, some of the things, and we'll see you on next Sunday, same time at 8:30, and we'll do the balance part. Thank you.